Hi, welcome. Today, the three of us are here to talk about the ripple effect that psychotherapists, we believe, have in this day and age, and how much it's needed. And what I mean by a ripple effect, or what we mean, is that our compassion in action, in the sense that what we do in our office, in our safe space with clients, is we offer people an opportunity to not only experience compassion from us, but also to learn to be more compassionate with themselves. And in doing so, be more compassionate with others, which is very needed in our world today, with how much divisiveness and anger and fear is being perpetrated and promoted throughout our society. Hi, my name is Ariel Schulz. I got my master's in social work back in the mid-90s, early 90s. And part of why I went into this field, I knew as a young child, before I even knew what the word therapy meant, that I wanted to alleviate suffering. For some reason, I had this capacity to feel what other people felt, that compassion, that empathy. And so I just felt it was a mission that I had to really alleviate other people's hurts. So I have been doing this therapy for 30 some years, and I've been in private practice for a lot of those years. So as I got into the field and I became a general practitioner, I work with people that have had multiple different kinds of issues, and I've been trained in many different kinds of interventions and treatment modalities. And one of the things that I feel is a theme is this ripple effect idea.
So let's talk about our role as psychotherapists. And it's really about helping people find their inner strength, help them find hope, and help them be able to learn ways that they can achieve the things they want to achieve in their lives.
Hi, I'm Lisa Brody-Doucet, and I've been a psychotherapist since the late 1980s, which is when I got my master's degree in community counseling. At that time, I wanted to become a therapist because I thought it would be kind of fun to be able to just sit and talk to people and get paid for it. I don't think I really understood the depth of what I was getting into or the impact that I was able to make. I believe part of being a psychotherapist is also doing your own work to make sure that you're healthy yourself as you're trying to help others.
At least that's how I see my role.
Absolutely.
As a psychotherapist.
Yes, I agree.
And to become unstuck from the problems that are putting them in a place where they can't have compassion for themselves or members of their family or members of their community. And by us kind of being able to take a bird's eye view of that in office, in a safe space that is judgment-free, that they're able to then move past those stuck points and progress in their lives and in their own development.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Slothower, and I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I've been in the field for a little over 25 years, and I have a master's degree in community counseling. So I entered the field of counseling and psychotherapy, outpatient mental health, because I felt like as a child, a lot of adults had forgotten what it was like to be a child. And I wanted to be there for children, to have a voice of an adult who sort of remembered what it was like to be a kid with feelings that were valid and should be given a voice.
Yeah, in a world where there's so much judgment, everybody's dealing with these conditions that they feel they have to be perfect or have to perform in a certain way to be loved or to be accepted. Our job, I feel, is very unique. People come and step into this safe space and it's all about them. It's all about them for a change, instead of them having to feel like there's a relationship they're having with others that they have to worry about or think about. And so in doing that, they're learning to have a relationship with themselves, which gains insight and understanding and awareness and helps them to find those inner strengths and those resilience that they would otherwise not find, I think, because they've been dealing with so many messages that tell them they're not good enough.
That's the one thing I want people to leave my office with. There's no quick fix, right? But at least I want people to feel hope.
Yes.
And that there's hope that they're going to feel better.
Yes. And when they have that little bit of light of hope, they may not have had it once they entered our office if they were in that darker space, then they can then pass that on to the next person.
Absolutely.
And I do hear that a lot from people, that what they learn, and I'm sure you two do as well, what they learn in therapy, the skills, the ideas, the insights, they pass on.
Absolutely.
And so not everybody then has to go to therapy all the time. It's like that ripple effect of what affects one can affect many. And that's huge. That's really important.
And even beyond that, I've had the experience where I had a woman that I was seeing, and in seeing her, she came back years later and sent a letter to me saying, based on what I experienced in your office, I went back to school, became a therapist, because I could see the worth of experiencing that with other people. And that in and of itself, like sometimes we are educators as well as just being that safe space to listen and be a non-judgmental individual that's compassionate.
Or even within families, I have a woman who I'm working with who has had, for financial reasons, need to move back with her family of origin. And she's looking at her younger brothers and her parents and seeing unhealthy relationships. And she's starting to be able to define it and talk to them about, do you realize that you're talking just about you? And how do we look beyond that? Or how do we be kind to each other?
Well, and it becomes that whole thing of healing. When we look at the root word of psychotherapy, right? It's healing your mind and soul. And I think one of the ways that our field has changed is that it was really more just about the mind. It was more about how cognitively we could look at our distortions and change. And that's so important. But now we're even more aware of how the mind and body go together, and how that is where we need to go deeper into understanding those triggers we feel within our body for trauma-informed care and things like that, that it's really important and integral to the healing of clients and understanding kind of how to calm themselves down in their nervous system, right?
Absolutely, and I think that helps break down the stigma. So no longer are you broken.
Right, absolutely.
You can help people understand what you're going through is a normal reaction.
Physiological response.
It's totally physiological, and we can help you figure out how to calm the whole system down, so you're able to think about it. Because when you're in fight or flight, you can't think straight. And if you can calm that down, all of a sudden there are more options available to you.
I watched the movie in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, called Defending Your Life. And that was a movie, it was a comedy with Meryl Streep and Charles Grodin. And it was about a guy who died. And when you die, you go to a place called Judgment City. At Judgment City, you have to present your life to a judge, and they decide where you go upon your death. And the whole idea behind it was the more decisions you make based out of fear, the lower levels you go to. Whereas if you make decisions more towards the common good, helping others, regardless of fear, then you are able to go to a higher level.
Going out on critical incidents when people have been through crisis and they've been through emergencies and dangerous situations, and you educate them about, oh, those are normal responses. Oh, it is? Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, we all have that same response.
And that goes with grief too, right?
Yeah.
Right? There's so many people that think that they got to an acceptance, right? Because we know all the stages, right? And they think, okay, well, I was feeling acceptance yesterday, and today I'm back to feeling like disbelief, or I'm feeling sad again. And they think, oh gosh, then I've not made progress, right?
Or there's something wrong with me.
Right. So guiding people and understanding what progress really is, that it's not this linear movement, it's the spiral.
Yeah.
And that you are making progress, you're not back here, but when you're dipping down back into some of the symptoms and, the layers that we have to go through when we're dealing not only with trauma, but also with grief, which can go hand in hand. But with any kind of unconditioning of learning how we kind of are related to the world, or the world's related to us, and it's affected the way we think about ourselves. So,
and then sometimes even very normal responses like grief, like a trauma response, then affects our body. Right?
Yeah.
We are having insomnia or disruptions in eating patterns or disruption in memory. And all of that is really normal in a response to those types of things. And that's not about the mind. It's about the body. And you have to be in a place where you can treat both.
And that's newer in our field. I think that's with this research that's been done that helps us to understand the connection between the stress hormone, how we view the world with either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Those kinds of things really affect the body stress.
Absolutely.
And that can turn into all of these, illnesses.
It's opened the door to so many different types of treatment, not just talk therapy. It's play therapy, it's pet therapy, it's utilizing TMS, and it's utilizing psychopharmacology and appropriate psychiatric medication and spirituality, really bringing a lot of meditation and movement within the body. That's all very different than just, I'm going to go in somebody's office and sit on their couch and talk.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the roots of psychotherapy, I'm thinking about Freud as you're talking. It's no longer about laying on the couch and having...
Although I have some people do that. But yes.
the stream of consciousness.
Yes.
It's no longer the stream of
Yes.
consciousness
Yes.
of somebody over here taking notes.
Yes.
It's really about there are things you can do. There are skills you can learn.
How do we deal with people? How do you two deal with people when they're clearly angry? There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of kind of almost vengeful attitudes about the other side, so to speak, with all this divisiveness happening in our country and being angry about, what's happening. How do you think our role is important to helping combat that and change that?
I try to help them see the cognitive distortions in things like all or nothing thinking or catastrophizing. And that doesn't necessarily help move progression, but also that comes from a place of fear, which typically leads to a distorted sense of thinking. And that ultimately we all have the same common goal, which is, we want people to be safe, healthy, and happy. And lots of different ways to get there, lots of different opinions about what safe, healthy, and happy looks like, but that ultimately we are all on the same side of humanity. There's a story from this book called Zen Shorts that I like to share with my clients quite a bit. And one of them is called The Heavy Load. And it's about two monks walking through a city and seeing a woman who needs to be carried across a puddle. And her attendants can't do so because they have too many packages. The older monk carries the woman across the puddle, and she's very rude to him and does not thank him. As they leave the city, the younger monk is really frustrated with the older monk. Why did you do that? Why were you kind to her? Why did you show her compassion when she showed none to anyone and in fact didn't even thank you? And the older monk approaches the younger monk and says, I put that woman down hours ago. Why haven't you? And I think many people get stuck with holding on to old resentments, old hurts, and don't know how to move beyond that. And in a therapist's office who can show them compassion and how to have compassion for themselves, they can then, in a ripple effect, show that to others and not have to hold on to so much anger, sadness, hurt, distress. And that's what I think therapy is all about.
And I think really getting underneath and helping people figure out what is that core feeling behind all that anger.
Right.
Because anger is a secondary emotion, right? Is it hurt? Am I afraid? What is
Sadness,
that?
Rejection.
All of those things, because if you can look at that, it doesn't matter what you're angry about. Let's look at your fear or your emotion that you want to be angry about.
And I think it goes back to this whole concept that we're talking about, which is if we don't as individuals take responsibility for how we feel and how we react versus respond, then we're just living in this world of non-accountability. That's our job, is to really talk about how can you detach, how can you look back at yourself instead of pointing the finger outwards to why you are feeling and behaving the way that you are. Because if everybody in the world just behaved the way we wanted them to all the time, we'd be golden, right? If they would just drive the way I wanted them to, right? Yeah, but really that's the whole point, is that we don't do that.
And to help people identify helplessness as a problematic emotion as well.
And the story that I think of that really does kind of embody why I'm in this field and how I see my role is the story of the old man and the young man and the starfish. And how it goes is that there's a young man who is walking along a beach and there are millions of starfish just washed up. And he starts to throw the starfish back into the ocean. And the old man's watching him and interrupts him and says, "What are you doing, young man? How do you think that you're going to make a difference there's so many here?" And the young man looks at him and says, "Well, To every starfish I throw back into the ocean, it makes a difference.